Werner Herzog has long been drawn to the fringes of the world. Since the 1960s, he's used the camera to explore the utterly unique and at times otherworldly. And although the topics of his films vary widely, from the impact of the internet on human life to a documentary on some of the oldest cave drawings in the world, most of Herzog's nonfiction and fiction films seem to contain an ongoing interrogation of wild nature, an interrogation that actually reveals much more about Herzog's worldview and cinematic approach than it does about the flora and fauna on screen. So today I want to analyze how Herzog manipulates our perception of wild nature in his 2005 film Grizzly Man, to the extent that we begin to believe in his own chaotic and at times pessimistic perspective of the natural world. Throughout the documentary, there's a tension between Herzog's and the subject of the film, Timothy Treadwell's interpretation of wild nature. For Herzog, nature is violent and harsh, a sentiment which he mentions in previous movies.
And nature here is vile and base. I wouldn't see anything erotical here. I would see fornication and asphyxiation and choking and fighting for survival and growing and just rotting away.
For Treadwell, however, the natural world meant harmony and beauty.
I love you. I love you.
These two perceptions of wild nature oppose each other throughout the documentary, with Herzog musing about why Treadwell might have been driven to protect a species that was so uninterested in his presence. But ultimately, Herzog's use of Treadwell as a filmic subject helps to solidify his belief that wild nature is overwhelmingly indifferent. As the documentary moves from its opening scene to the final credits, Herzog works to slowly erode the harmony that Treadwell saw in the Alaskan wild, and instead replace it with an outlook that emphasizes a system based in chaos. The way in which Herzog crafts this image of nature is essential to both understanding Grizzly Man as a movie and Herzog as a filmmaker. Initially, the film presents itself as a cinematic memorial to Treadwell, even going so far as to place his name and date of birth and death on the lower third of the screen, which acts like a gravestone in the opening shot of the movie. This commemoration continues throughout the film, but as with other aspects of Treadwell's personality, Herzog works to complicate and at times undermine Treadwell's approach to the natural world. He achieves this a number of different ways, but primarily uses a juxtaposition between interviews with professionals and Treadwell's personal footage. For instance, in this scene, Herzog deftly places a piece of audio from the curator of the Alutiiq Museum over some of Treadwell's footage.
If I look at it from my culture, Timothy Treadwell crossed a boundary that we have lived with for 7,000 years.
In this way, Herzog undoes Treadwell's vision of a harmony between humans and nature, and instead co-opts Treadwell's footage and life mission in order to reveal that the
common denominator of the universe is not harmony, but chaos, hostility, and murder.
Herzog also asserts the cold brutality of the natural by revealing the brutal circumstances of Timothy Treadwell's death early on in the film, thus craftily editing the chronology of Treadwell's life to aid Herzog's own vision of a chaotic nature. In a typical narrative arc, the death of the protagonist generally comes at the climax. But because Herzog reveals that Treadwell was eaten by the very same bears he sought to protect in the exposition of the movie, we struggle to empathize with the love Treadwell felt for the animals of the Alaskan wilderness. Even further, we find it hard to believe in Treadwell's work or vision because we know of his eventual demise and the brutality the grizzly bears are capable of. So when we see an expertly framed shot of Treadwell in the foreground and a group of bears in the background, we can't help but lose trust in his mission, and instead look towards Herzog's constant narration for guidance. In short, Grizzly Man proposes to be about Treadwell's life and passion, but if we dig a little deeper into the narrative structure and consistent authorial narration, we can see that Herzog is guiding us to believe in his own cynical vision of wild nature. So essentially, Herzog uses many of his movies to explore the physical fringes of the world. Fringes that, when combined with a masterful knowledge of film, work to reconfirm Herzog's chaotic perception of the universe. This video is made possible in part because of the awesome people who support me on Patreon. And if you like the video, consider subscribing or sharing the video with people you know. That really helps a lot. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you next Friday.